Hello everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're diving into a tense new chapter. Jack takes Tu Tien to the hospital for answers, but even after the tests he still can't shake the fear. Is her mysterious illness truly harmless, or could it threaten her life? If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next episode. The afternoon sun is soft and golden, the kind that makes the whole farm look calmer than it really is. Under the vegetable garden canopy, Tu Tien is down on her knees with a small shovel, filling in the gaps where the soil sank after the last watering. Her hands move with quiet focus, scoop, pat, smooth, like she's trying to rebuild peace, one handful at a time. The tomato plants are doing surprisingly well. Some branches are heavy with green fruit, and the flowers keep blooming like they're promising a big harvest. Tu Tien ties a stem gently to a bamboo trellis, careful not to snap it. "Okay, stay straight," she murmurs, half to the plant, half to herself. Near the edge of the garden, she's started 2 cabbage beds. 2 different types, then a neat row of coriander that already smells sharp and clean when she brushes it. She keeps glancing at the calendar in her head, counting the days to Tet, imagining what could be ready in time. If she can harvest from her own garden, she tells herself, maybe everything will feel normal again. Behind her, the gate creaks. Tu Tien turns and Jack is walking in from the path with a small bag in one hand and that worried look he's been trying to hide in the other. His hair is still short from the haircut, but his eyes look like they haven't rested. "What are you doing out here alone?" he asks, voice gentle but firm. Tu Tien wipes her hands on her pants and tries to smile like it's nothing. "I'm just fixing the soil. The tomatoes are leaning, and I wanted to plant cabbage for Tet." Jack walks closer, crouches beside her, and studies the garden like it's a report he needs to understand. "Tomorrow, we do it together." She shakes her head quickly. "You're busy? You have work? I can handle the garden." Jack doesn't argue right away. He simply pulls a bottle of water from the bag and holds it out. "Drink first." Tu Tien takes it, surprised. "You went out just to buy water?" Jack shrugs like it's obvious. "You've been outside under the sun, and it's colder today." Tu Tien drinks a few gulps, then hands it back. "Did you drink?" "I drank already," he says, but his eyes flick away for a second. "Company first, then sight." That word, sight, should be normal. It used to be normal. But now Tu Tien hears it and feels the distance again. Jack is trying to return to his life, but he keeps coming back to her face like he's checking she's still here. Tu Tien stands, brushing dirt off her knees. "I'll change clothes. We should go." Jack's shoulders tighten. "We're going now?" Tu Tien nods. "You said we would go to the provincial hospital. The sooner we check, the sooner you can stop worrying." Jack lets out a breath like he's been holding it all day. He tries to make his voice light, but it comes out heavier than he wants. "Good, we go. We check everything properly." Tu Tien turns toward the house, but Jack follows a step behind her like he's afraid she'll vanish between the garden and the door. And the truth is, he hasn't been calm since she told him about the nosebleeds and the rashes. Even after the police report, even after the church, even after she's back in his arms, there's one question he can't silence. What if this illness is serious? What if it's something that can take her away? Earlier that same day, Jack tried to act normal at the construction site. He brought Fuck along, the new intern, because that's what a boss does. He needs to train people, keep projects moving, keep the company steady. He even gave Fuck a small notebook and told him, "Write everything. If you don't write it, you'll forget it." Fuck followed like a shadow, eyes wide at every piece of machinery. "Boss, is this the section where they drill piles first?" "Yes," Jack answered, walking fast, pointing out markers in the soil. "Weak ground. We drill until we hit stable layers." Fuck nodded like he understood, but then asked the kind of question that proves he's still learning. "But what if the drill depth is wrong?" Jack stopped and looked at him. "Then you fix it before you pour anything, because once you pour, mistakes become disasters." Fuss swallowed. "Yes, boss." Jack kept walking. He talked about alignment, reinforcement, inspection schedules. He said all the right things, but inside, his mind was somewhere else. At least 3 times Jack checked his phone. At least 3 times there were no new messages. And every time he put the phone back in his pocket, the same thought returned like a sharp echo. She's home alone right now. What if she feels dizzy? What if she bleeds again? What if she faints and no one is there? He tried calling her once, just once, not because he wanted to control her, because he needed to hear her voice. Tu Tien answered quickly. "Jack." His chest loosened immediately. "What are you doing?" "I'm in the garden," she said. "Planting." Jack closed his eyes for half a second. "Okay, don't overdo it. If you feel tired, stop." Tu Tien laughed softly. "I'm fine. Stop worrying." Jack wanted to say, "I can't stop," but he only said, "I'll be home soon." After the call, Vin looked at him and didn't ask directly, but the expression was clear. "You're not fully here today, boss." Jack forced himself back into focus. He had to. The bridge doesn't wait, the workers don't wait, the company doesn't wait, but love doesn't wait either. Fear doesn't wait either. And Jack has never felt fear like this before, not even in the toughest deals, not even in the biggest projects, because money can be earned again, a project can be delayed, but if Tu Tien's health is truly at risk, that's not something he can rebuild with concrete and steel. Now back at the farm, Tu Tien comes out in warmer clothes, hair tied back neatly. She grabs her ID card from the table and holds it up like she's proving she's prepared. Jack nods. "Good, bring it." He walks her to the car, opens the door, and waits until she's seated before he closes it, like she's fragile glass. Tu Tien watches him and tries to soften the moment. "You're acting like I'm going to break." Jack pauses, then leans down so his face is closer to hers. His voice is low. "I'm acting like I almost lost you." Tu Tien's expression shifts immediately, guilt and tenderness mixing together. "Jack." He straightens up and forces a small smile. "We'll get answers today. That's all I want. Clear answers." As he starts the engine, Tu Tien looks out at the garden, the trellises, the cabbage beds, the tomatoes. Everything growing quietly, steadily, like life is supposed to. She wants that kind of steady life. Jack wants it too. But first, they need to know the truth about her body, the real cause of the symptoms, and whether it's just a painful, annoying condition, or something that could change everything. The road to the provincial hospital stretches long and cold ahead, and Jack's hands tighten on the steering wheel as if he can hold the future in place by gripping hard enough. Tu Tien reaches across the console and places her hand over his. "I'm here," she says softly. "I'm not going anywhere." Jack nods, but his eyes stay on the road. because love can promise, but only the hospital can confirm. And until he hears those results, Jack won't fully breathe again. By the time they reach the provincial hospital, the sky has turned a pale winter grey. The parking lot is crowded with motorbikes, taxis, and families huddled in jackets. Jack parks carefully, then circles around to Tu Tien's side like he's been doing ever since she came back, quietly protective, pretending it's just habit. "You okay?" he asks as he opens the door. Tu Tien nods. "I'm okay. It's just... hospitals make me nervous." Jack's jaw tightens. "Me too," he admits, "but we're here to get answers." They walk in together. The moment the automatic doors slide open, the air changes cleaner, colder, smelling faintly of antiseptic and medicine. Fluorescent lights wash everything in a sterile brightness that makes Tu Tien feel even more exposed. Jack keeps his hand lightly on her elbow, guiding her through the crowd toward the dermatology department. They register, take a queue number, and sit on a metal bench. Around them, people cough softly, nurses call names, and somewhere down the hall, a child starts crying, high and sharp, before a mother hushes them. Tu Tien stares at her hands. Jack watches her, and he can't stop his mind from replaying the past weeks, her hiding her symptoms, her disappearing, his panic, the doctor's words at the clinic, the fear that something deeper might be wrong. And then, like a reflex, Jack checks his phone. No new messages. A ridiculous habit, he thinks. She's right beside me. But fear doesn't listen to logic. Tu Tien leans her head slightly toward him. "Jack, you're overthinking again?" He looks at her. "I'm trying not to." She gives a tiny smile. "Then hold my hand?" He does, and her fingers are warmer than his. A nurse calls Tu Tien's name. Both of them stand at the same time. Jack says, "I'm coming in." Tu Tien hesitates, then nods. "Okay." Inside the examination room, the doctor greets them and checks the file on the screen. "Blood pressure is normal," the doctor says, glancing up at Tu Tien. "Tell me your symptoms again." Tu Tien takes a breath. "Itching rashes. They come and go, but lately it's been worse. And I had nosebleeds before, more than once." The doctor's expression stays professional, but focused. "How long has the itching been happening?" "A month," Tu Tien answers. "Sometimes worse in the morning, sometimes at night." "Cold weather makes it worse." The doctor nods. "Any new soap, new food, new environment?" Tu Tien shakes her head. "Nothing new." The doctor asks her to roll up her sleeves. He examines her arms carefully, then points at faint, dark patches. "Post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation," he says, "from repeated itching." Tu Tien's cheeks heat with embarrassment, but Jack's face hardens. He hates knowing she's been suffering quietly. Then the doctor leans closer to her face. "Any itching on the face?" Tu Tien nods, touching the side of her nose. "Especially here." The doctor switches on a magnifying screen and peers at her skin. Seborrheic dermatitis signs, scaling, and follicle irritation. Jack hears those terms and his mind spins. He doesn't care about the names as much as he cares about the one question he hasn't asked yet. Is it dangerous? The doctor sits back and types quickly. "Most likely a combination," he explains. "Seborrheic dermatitis, folliculitis, urticaria tendencies, and acne-related inflammation. But because you mentioned nosebleeds, we should also do blood tests and an ENT check." Jack leans forward immediately. "Yes, please." Tu Tien glances at him, surprised by how fast he speaks. The doctor prints out orders. "Go downstairs for blood draw, then ENT for nasal endoscopy." Tu Tien nods, takes the paper, and stands. Outside, Jack exhales as if he's been holding his breath for hours. "We do everything," he says. "No skipping." Tu Tien tries to lighten it. "I wasn't going to skip." At the blood draw room, Tu Tien sits in a chair while a nurse ties a band around her arm. She looks away the moment the needle goes in, lips pressed together. Jack stands close, watching the process like he can physically protect her from discomfort. When it's done, Tu Tien flexes her fingers. "Okay," she says softly. Next. Ent is worse, not painful exactly, but uncomfortable. The doctor explains what will happen, then gently performs the endoscopy. Tu Tien grips the side of the chair, eyes watering. Jack watches, fighting the urge to interrupt, trusting the doctor but hating the helplessness of it. Afterward, Tu Tien wipes her eyes. "It's fine," she says, voice shaky. "I'm fine." Jack nods, but inside, guilt burns. She shouldn't have gone through this alone the first time. She shouldn't have had to hide it. They return to dermatology and wait again, the minutes stretching long. Jack can't sit still. He stands, sits, stands again. Tu Tien whispers, "Jack, sit. You're making me more nervous." Jack sits. "Sorry." While they wait, his mind drifts back to earlier that morning on the construction site with Phuc. He had been explaining pile placement when Phuc asked, "Boss, how do you stay calm when everything is high risk?" Jack had answered automatically, "You focus on what you can control, one step at a time." But now, sitting here in a hospital hallway, Jack realizes something. At a construction site, he can control the design, the schedule, the materials, the inspections. In a hospital, he can't control anything. He can only wait. A nurse finally calls Tu Tien back in. The doctor reviews the results on the screen. "Complete blood count is normal," the doctor says. "No anemia. Liver and kidney functions look normal as well. Safe to prescribe medication." Jack feels something unlock in his chest, relief, sudden and heavy. Tu Tien's shoulders drop too, like she's been carrying a stone. "So, it's not serious?" Jack asks carefully. The doctor chooses his words. "The skin conditions are uncomfortable and can persist if triggers remain. But your blood work doesn't show dangerous abnormalities. The nosebleeds could be from irritation, dryness, fatigue, or inflammation. Still, rest is important. Avoid stress, maintain nutrition, follow medication. If symptoms return strongly, you recheck." Jack nods too fast. "We will." The doctor prints prescriptions. "Take this regularly. Use topical treatment as instructed. Recheck in a few weeks." Tu Tien accepts the papers with both hands. "Thank you, doctor." Outside the room, Jack stops walking for a second, like his body needs to confirm this moment is real. Tu Tien looks up at him. "See, it's okay." Jack's eyes are still tense. "It's okay for now," he says honestly. "But I still want to know the real root cause, why it started, why you had nosebleeds, why you were so tired." Tu Tien's smile fades. "So you're still worried?" Jack nods. "Because you matter?" She reaches for his hand. "Then we handle it together. No hiding." Jack squeezes her fingers. "No hiding." On the way out, Tu Tien tries to shift the mood. "I'm hungry." Jack blinks, then laughs softly. His first real laugh all day. "Okay, we eat." They stop at the market near the hospital. Jack buys vegetables, ginger, some fish, and a bag of oranges. He even grabs a small bundle of fresh herbs. Tu Tien watches him and teases, "You're buying like you're feeding a whole village." Jack replies without missing a beat, "I'm feeding you, that's serious business." Back in the car, Tu Tien leans her head against the seat, eyes half closed. "I feel lighter," she admits. Jack glances at her. Because the results are okay? Tu Tien nods. And because you're here. Jack drives carefully, but his thoughts keep circling. Relief is real, but love makes him cautious. He remembers how quickly life can flip, how one missing day became weeks of fear. So even with normal blood work, Jack tells himself he won't relax completely until Tu Tien's body feels steady again, until her sleep is calm, her skin heals, her nosebleeds never return. When they arrive back at the farm, the garden greets them with quiet green, tomatoes, coriander, cabbage beds waiting like promises. Tu Tien steps out slowly, breathing in the familiar air. "Home," she whispers. Jack carries the bags inside. "You rest," he orders gently. "I cook." Tu Tien starts to protest, but Jack gives her a look that ends the argument. "Doctor said rest," he reminds her. She nods and sits near the doorway, watching him move around the kitchen. He washes rice, slices ginger, prepares a simple soup, and keeps glancing back at her like he's checking she's still breathing. Tu Tien smiles, tired but warm. "You look like you're guarding me." Jack answers quietly without joking this time. "I am." Because even though the hospital gave him relief today, Jack knows the truth. His fear isn't only about illness, it's about losing her again. And until he's sure, until he understands the full story of her health, until her body proves it's stable, Jack will keep holding her close, one careful day at a time. Under a warm afternoon sun, Tu Tien works quietly in the farm garden, planting cabbage and strengthening tomato trellises for a Tet harvest. Jack returns with water and gentle concern, insisting they go to the provincial hospital for a full checkup. On the way, he tries to act calm, but fear keeps rising. He still doesn't know the true cause of her strange symptoms, and he can't stop imagining the worst. At the hospital, Tu Tien explains her itchy rashes and earlier nosebleeds. Doctors examine her skin, order blood tests, and send her to ENT for a nasal check. After hours of waiting, the results bring relief. Her blood work is normal, with no anemia and stable liver and kidney function, and she's given treatment for several skin conditions. Even with good news, Jack remains cautious, determined to uncover the root cause and protect Tu Tien, one careful day at a time.